Okay, we're recording, Jack.
Okay. Just to let you know, I still am having some technical issues with my connection. Sometimes it looks like the interpreter isn't speaking. He is. So let's proceed. Oh, right. I remember where we were. Now we will start the public parties feedback, correct?
Yes.
So now the sign language interpreter board, it's time for us to hear the public interested parties feedback. Members of the public, please wait until you've been recognized. Once recognized, please state your name and affiliation to the board for the record. Okay, I'm missing part of the script. I feel like, isn't there more than that? Don't we have to say something about the Zoom options, or is there more to the script?
I don't think so. I lost mine.
Public contact Carrie to provide comments.
Usually it comes things. If you want to make a comment.
I think you read that.
Beginning.
That's at the beginning.
We do have somebody with their hand raised. SG. Go ahead,
Okay.
FD.
I'm gonna call on you.
Hey y'all, this is Sharon Gibbons and I'm a sign language interpreter here in lovely Oregon. First of all, Sammy and board and everybody, I really want to thank you and appreciate so much the supplemental bits and pieces that you added to the agenda. For me as a visual person, that was really, really helpful. And I hope that continues for RAC and so forth. I just have a couple of comments, and on some of it, I know that you all sort of voted on a proposal, so it may be too late. One of them is the business of the laundry list of all the certifications. I'm with Tammy in that we can sort of pare that down to saying RID certification or whatever, simply because, and I understand somebody mentioned, you know, if RID changes something or if there's a new certification and people don't agree with it, then you don't have to add that. But in my experience as an interpreter for a very, very long time, the opposite happens. RID certification has been RID certification for 50 plus years. And I think it would be simpler if you pare down that laundry list to say, for example, RID certification. And then in the future, if there's a new RID certification that y'all deem like not so good, it will be so much easier to, at that point, you know, change and add an exception or, you know, whatever. So that's just one of my bits, because as I mean, that list is going to grow. 5 years from now, there's going to be a new certification. Excuse me, it's not going to be a new certification. It's going to be a certification with a new name. And somebody was, I think Sammy was talking about, for example, nursing boards. Similarly, you are board certified as a nurse, regardless of whether you got it 10 years ago or 5 yeyears ago. And RID has a history of every iteration of a test, they add a new name. So that's just one sort of piece. For example, if somebody has an NID 5, they're certified. And yes, and this may also have been mentioned. I got kicked off for a moment, but on that laundry list, taking off the T in the BEI, because there are a number of states. If somebody comes in with an Illinois BEI, somebody from HLO might be looking at that list and go, ooh, the IL BEI is not on the list. Therefore, that person can't get a license. And we as interpreters, we know that just like RID certification is RID certification, BEI is BEI. And so, so that I would encourage taking off the T. The other piece, and this is kind of an ODE thing. Right now, the educational the OAR for the educational qualification to interpret, simply it says RID, NIC, CI, CT, or EIPA 3.5. So looking at the letter of the law, which y'all have sort of talked about, does that mean, is there going to be an issue if somebody who is NID 5 certified, not able to work in the public school system? We have a laundry list for the generalist and the supervisor that includes all of these things. Generalists and supervisors can also interpret in educational settings, but then ODE, the OAR, says something different. So I'm a little concerned about that. And I guess there's this difference between ODE and OAR and the licensures. There's kind of a difference between compliance with OAR and qualifications for a license. So I do have a bit of a concern if the license says you need a 4.0. Essentially, that means somebody can be in compliance with OAR, but they're not able to get a license. So that's, I think, just something to think about. If the license requires a 4.0 for ed license, that's in conflict with the law or the statute or the whatever. And then just one more little piece, and this is again an ODE thing, but maybe it can be added to the licensure for ed. I also, like Tammy said, I'm also a little sort of disappointed in the removal of the 12 hours of professional development. I understand that ODE was trying to remove barriers, but I, for one, believe that that particular barrier, that particular requirement was not a barrier. It's easy enough to get 12 hours. Public schools that have interpreters, generally, there's all of those in-service days. And in my experience, those in-service days become, a workshop for educational interpreters, this, that, and the other thing. And so I agree with Tammy on that one. And I'm a little sad that that was taken off of there. And I think that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you. And I want to check. Are there more people on the list? I want to check with Carrie. Are there lots of names or just a few? I'm just curious what the list looks like in terms of time management.
Nobody else?
There's no one else?
Anybody else wants to?
Okay. So if you'd like to say more, please feel free. Are there any other people that want to comment?
Can I just clarify something that I said?
Yes, Georgianne.
Okay, thank you. So this is Georgianne, and when I said removing barriers, it wasn't in the sense that I believe it's being taken. So I knew that this was going to be an issue, that we were going to have conflicting rules. So I tried to write our OAR so that it leans on HLO as much as possible, because y'all are the ones doing the licensing and you're the board. So it's really not that I'm trying to say that nobody needs to do those 12 hours at all. So I just want to clarify that. And I did talk to somebody about a temporary licensure, and I have a meeting on Tuesday, and I will see about changing our OAR. And I mean, I can do a temporary that would move into a permanent if it works out that way. I can't guarantee anything, but I can try and do that. And we can take away a lot of these things that are in our OAR that would make it very easy for the HLO to just move forward, and people aren't going to have these problems. So I will work on that from my end, and hopefully before school starts, we won't have a bunch of people who can't interpret, although they should be able to.
Thank you. Are there any more comments? No comments? Going once? Twice? And I'm assuming that it's closed. The public comment section has closed. Okay, so now that we have closed the public feedback part of the session, let's move on to other board business. Do any of the board members have anything that we need to discuss? Yes, Al, I see you. Oh, sorry, the interpreters do not see. Al, would you mind coming on screen, and then Mish, it will be your turn. This is Al. And I'd like to make a comment about using Microsoft Teams. It really is not very deaf friendly. And it's very difficult for me to pin people and to follow the interpreter, plus sharing a screen. I'm wondering if it's an option to switch to Zoom for the board meetings, because it is more deaf friendly. It's just a suggestion that I have. And I concur, says Jack. I agree. From my perspective, that the other board members can add their comments as well, but this is something I know that we have to adjourn at 3:00, but I see in terms of the session being virtual, I do see benefit, but I don't want to continue on Microsoft Teams. I would really love to transfer to Zoom if possible. I know, remember in the boardroom when we were in person, it was musical chairs. It was exhausting, always having to get in front of the camera. So doing it virtually is friendlier on deaf eyes, but not with Microsoft Teams. With Zoom, you can adjust the screen that you're seeing, the size of the speaker, and it's just a lot of work. It's a lot of visual work in terms of being on Teams. And Zoom has more functionality. And so I would like to make a proposal that our future meetings be virtual, and secondly, that they be on Zoom. So Mish, your comment is next.
So that was actually the comment I was going to make. Al, thank you for starting that conversation. I really like this online setting, and I feel like we move along in the agenda more smoothly, but I am having a lot of trouble with MS Teams. The interpreter, when I can't hear the audio, I watch the interpreter, and it's like this big. So I would love to be on Zoom.
Yes. Okay, Sammy also has a hand raised. Eric, I'll come back to you. So Sammy first.
So, this meeting was scheduled to be in person, and at the last minute, a few people decided they were going to be, online, so $400 worth of food was purchased that we couldn't cancel. So I'm wanting to know, for planning purposes, if the October 30th meeting will be in person or online, so we can plan.
Yes, board, Eric.
That's Perfect. Right in line with what I was going to comment is when we saw the revenue report earlier, I'm wondering is if we're doing it virtually, would that save on food and like I don't know, gas or whatever what that's called. Because I similarly feel this is it's good for me to jump in. I'm down here in Medford, so it's easy for me to join here as opposed to the 2.5 hours up and back. So this format works for me.
Also, this is Jeff. Bob, I will come to you, but Sammy, can you clarify, did you say $400 for lunch?
380.
Oh, but the email, I was looking at the email and it said lunch. I never placed an order.
Right, we ordered it.
So I just want to clarify, who was the $400 for? Because nobody
It was
asked me if
food.
I wanted lunch.
So if it's a working lunch
Is
and
it
it's in person, we provide food. It's a working lunch,
It's a buffet style.
buffet style.
Oh, okay. So you did buffet and then you ordered without communicating with us.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was just a little disappointed that that's on HLO because we didn't ask for the lunch.
So you don't, okay, so no lunch going forward?
Ish, and then Eric, I mean, I see, it shows me the order, but Eric, let's call you first.
Sorry, I left my hand up.
Oh, Mish, okay, you first.
I'll just first respond to Sammy that I think we would just like lunch communicated with us because I know for summertime, many of us are traveling, and I'm not surprised that we ended up being virtual today.
Which it's on the agenda, working lunch. I don't know how else we could communicate it.
Okay. Well, I think going forward, I would love meetings to be virtual. Is it possible to take funds that we had earmarked for food for future meetings and put that towards a Zoom account?
So this is Bob, if I may. So we are, the way we operate is at the behest of facilities and OHA. MS Teams is what we were given. There wasn't an option for Zoom and there wasn't an option for anything else. They gave us MS Teams with the assurance that MS Teams has the same features as Zoom, but maybe if there's a learning curve, I can have our IT guy put something together for future meetings to help board members and the public pin people and spotlight and do the things that Zoom does. But we did try to do an interface with Zoom early on, and it was a bigger mess than what we have just with MS Teams.
So just to respond to that, MS Teams does have
Oh, sorry, I would like to make a comment. Go ahead, Mish.
MS Teams does have different features on Zoom. I actually spent the morning Googling them, trying to figure out how I could do it on MS Teams and was told by MS Teams website that that feature was not there. The other, to the point about where we had tried Zoom and it was ineffective, at the time we were trying a hybrid with some of us in person and some of us all online, and that wasn't very effective. What if we tried it with everybody online, everybody on Zoom?
I can talk with Nathan and we can do a test run on Zoom, but I can't give you any guarantees.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I think since yes, oh, thank you, Mish. Sorry about that. Thank you, Mish. So since we've talked about transitioning fully to virtual, I'm wondering if the HLO staff, maybe you could just stay in your office for the Zoom calls. And then that wouldn't be an issue any longer. What do you think? Yeah, then we could all just attend on Zoom from our individual offices, and then that way we could be off screen when we're not speaking. And I would love to be able to try that because we have tried in the community, it's Microsoft Teams community wide, it just is not accommodating for us in the deaf community. It just isn't. And so here, you know, you're kind of forcing us to do something that we already know doesn't work for us. It's not just Oregon, it's nationwide. Deaf people everywhere prefer Zoom. So that's just a consideration on how you can accommodate us, and that's through the American with Disabilities.
Well, this is Bob again. We can discuss it, but having HLO staff in the same room kind of, and with Heather Vogelsong, if we have to have a quick sidebar or something like that, it's easier when we're in this room, but that doesn't mean we all have to be in the room.
It's my understanding that when you tried to interface Zoom and with the system that our IT gave us, is they don't like each other. They break, so people glitch out and go off screen and time, really a lot of lag time. So what IT gave us and what Zoom does, they don't marry each other. So if we went to Zoom, you may have a lot of glitching and delay time more than you have now.
In the room, just a second, Jack, please. In the room, this is a MS Teams platform. This is an MS platform. So in this room, this is what we have, MS Teams. Us being in our offices and trying to run Zoom, it's a possibility. We'd have to get a game plan together for HLO. Like I shared, it's easier for us to be collective in a room, but maybe we can figure something out in between now and your next meeting and talk with IT, see what we have.
We're gonna take just a moment and switch interpreters. We have to be in.
And Jack, if I may, one more point.
Yes, we're ready to voice. Are you ready to voice? Yes. But go ahead, Bob.
The room here is set up for people, the public, to come in to the office if they choose. So we have to have the room open for them.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for all that clarification. We've had conversations about this.
We've had a conversation about this, Bob, so you know my stance, and I know you apologized. But remember, you guaranteed to me, you said things would smooth out, that you would include us in the process. But you didn't check with us to see if the technology was working. You didn't consider us when you were making these decisions. It was like, this was an afterthought to you. And so to me, it feels like I'm being forced to follow a system that you're using, but we weren't checked with. And so honestly, that's on you.
The decision was made for me.
It didn't work out.
Thank you. Thank you for pointing that out, but the decision was made for HLO. HLO did not have a say.
It's our understanding that IT worked with the office of
That you would have thought of us. We were an afterthought. Yeah, so it's like, that's what we think about each other.
Okay. Thank you.
And so you could have hired a consultant. There are things that you could have done that you didn't.
Anything else?
Is there other board business, or do we need to make a motion to approve a Zoom meeting for the next?
No, you don't need to make a motion. We'll see what we can do about it. So if there's nothing else, Chair, you can read us out of session.
All righty. I suppose we can go ahead and close and go ahead and adjourn, right?
Yeah.
Right, the Board of Sign Language Interpreters meeting is now adjourned at 1:50 PM.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, interpreters.
Thank you.